James is having nachos, and he's going to talk about that. And salsa, that's pumpkin salsa. And the other chips on the plate were that. And those, in case you're wondering, if you haven't tuned in before, I got these smokin' sweet spud chips on clearance.
Taste much sweet.
And they are disgusting.
Well, it's not smoking, it's smoky.
Yeah, they're not good.
Smoking suggests that they're like smoking hot. Wow.
Yeah.
Not really.
And I got some salsa on clearance that was totally runny. You could see it's still even sort of runny there, but what I did was I mixed it with some...
You thickened it up.
Yeah. So I put more veggies in it. So I put some fried pumpkin and onion, some jalapeno, some cilantro. I think that's it.
So jalapeno, cilantro, pumpkin, and what was the
onion.
first one? Onion. It's going to be really healthy, folks.
Yeah. So it should be better that way.
Well, it looks plenty.
Because it was way too
So
runny.
I'm going to be using it as a dip now with this. Yeah, the funny thing is when I see cheese on something, I don't think dip. I just think, yeah.
I know. And usually when I serve up the nachos, I like to pile it up with the veggies, the cilantro and stuff on top. But this time I did it differently. So anyway, we'll see.
I'm going to start with one of the less cheesy things. Have you got any thing to review?
Nope.
Oh, okay. I guess it's all up to me, folks. And I got a lot of material here to review. Some of which I think of. You know, like half an hour ago it wasn't windy. This is the nature of the Chinook. Fair enough, folks. Pretty good. That's my review of that. I won't be eating that much of it. I was hoping Pauline had a lot of movies to review so I could shout out. On the nachos, I was almost cutting the chips. I have a little water here.
And I thought I should bring the salsa out.
Sorry about spilling that water.
Okay.
I tried to rescue that thing because
that doesn't matter at all.
It doesn't, but I didn't
No.
know. You know, sometimes you just react to things.
Doesn't matter at all.
The big trouble is when a knife starts falling off a table. You don't want to be reacting without
No,
thinking.
that's true. Yeah, but you probably do it anyway.
Well, I almost did it today, but
oh, really?
I managed to hit it, get it before it started flipping around, so I grabbed it.
This was the salsa, original salsa, PC. Brand.
PC. Oh, that's President's Choice, not politically correct.
And
politically correct salsa. Oh my, the mind boggles.
honestly, it's really, really boring. And it's way too runny. So,
well,
like I said though, when I bought it on clearance, so I didn't pay very much for it. And what do you think of it with the cilantro, jalapeno?
It's awesome.
Great. See, and it's not hard to just throw a few more veggies in.
Super great.
So,
so I don't know how much this cost. Hopefully it was on a severe discount.
yeah, severe. I don't know how much. Maybe $1.50 or something like that.
The President's Choice, I don't know why they changed it. It's basically run by a long-time Canadian.
Has it always been called that? The brands for food? Like there's no name, but that's bottom of the barrel. And then there's the President's Choice. And then there's one other that's a little bit better, and I can't remember what that one's called.
I can't recall it being around when I was a kid. This is what I'm talking about. Long time thing. It's old. I think they started off doing something like grocery stores. Weston family. They might have started off with something else. They've been around so long.
Well, I read a book a while ago. I reviewed it on here actually, and it was, I guess, the Weston guy who started Superstore. He started out doing what do you call it? Oh, what are they called? Those. Oh, I'll think of the word. They're very popular, like on the West Coast and stuff like that. The food. Oh, I'll think.
I don't know who this folk guy is. Probably one of the members of the Weston family. The guy who's kind of like the. I don't know if he's the.
Food co-ops. So he'd started out doing that sort of thing.
You mean called the co-op?
No,
Okay,
not
'cause
called the
that's
co-op.
different.
Food co-ops like they have where you you'll say like I remember reading one person's bad review of a co-op, and she was saying, you know, my whole family, we were in there making peanut butter on a Saturday so that we could spending our whole, you know, Saturday off so that we could get a discount on something or whatever, and she just didn't think it was worth it. And I remember looking into co-ops, and they'd have, I don't know who they're trying to market to, but they'll have a picture of some guy holding a guitar. And it's like, okay, so
does he have long hair and
plays
sandals?
the guitar while you labor making peanut butter, or like what how is the work arranged with these co-ops, like, or whatever, right? So anyway, I reviewed a book about co-ops and the whatever the Weston guy, he was in there, that's how he'd started out before, and then he decided he built Superstore from there, right? And I thought, well, what's the point in going to a co-op? Why not just go to Superstore? Whatever.
What's the time frame for this co-op then?
Oh, you mean when he wasn't, like, I don't know, way long ago. You know what? If you want to try to find my book review about that, I think I did it 3 years ago. I don't remember what was in the book. I just remember that was interesting, finding out that that's the origins of Superstore in Canada, was that.
Okay,
But,
well, it started in Canada, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's a Canadian family. That's why they seem to prominently display the Canadian flag and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer shopping there to shopping at American things, although one monopolist or oligopolist. I don't want to exaggerate.
And do try to find my review on that book, which whatever it was called, I don't know, something about co-ops, because it was terrible. It was very tough slogging through the book.
The book.
Yeah.
Well, it was basically from an economics point of view, was it, or was it?
It was written by somebody involved in a co-op, and at the time when I was reading this thing, I was thinking, okay, so was her labor as a writer for a co-op counted while somebody else was having to, like,
really do work?
Really do work, yeah. So that's, I don't know. I don't know how co-ops, maybe there's some good ones out there. I'm not sure, but unless people had a personality test where they no aggressive people, especially aggressive propagandists, but no aggressive people were involved in the co-op at all, then I can't imagine it would run fairly. With labor being distributed.
The Greeks had a good idea in the later Axis ages, called by Karl Jaspers. They came up with something called democracy. And it's a way of kind of semi-handling progressive leaders, like...
I don't know if it is, because if you look at democratic societies and you look at who is elected, they're not passive personality types, James. They're aggressive personality types. And anybody at the top of the systems that, like, within, you should see people in City Hall then, or whatever, at the top, that are not aggressive personality types, yet there they are.
Okay. So you interrupted.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't able to finish my thought. It kind of helps to control aggressive so-called leaders. I tend to think of them as being aggressive.
So they don't run a total dictatorship.
That's actually right.
Yeah, because at least you're probably going to get some work out of them. Or they're just going to, society's going to choose some other aggressive.
One of the important things about aggressive people is actually not allowing them to do too much work.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah. So, if you look at Winston Churchill, you find out he I suspect he was, at the very
Because
least...
you're just going to have to redo it. Whatever they do, they're going to ruin, and you're going to have to
Well, it won't
fix
be
it.
like zero.
Yeah,
It'd be
exactly.
better, like I say, to have them not
Yeah.
do work, because
Exactly.
It's in the negative area. So I'm going to be reviewing a book, so fair warning, it's about war, it's about World War II. It's written by one of the people who had to work pretty closely with a guy called Winston Churchill. And he keeps on saying in the book, Winston was the guy who won basically World War II. No, it was Franklin Roosevelt. It was any single person. It was the Americans. Definitely wasn't the Russians. They would have got their hindquarters handed to them by means of their throat if it had been just up to them. And Winston is actually more important in World War II than the Russians were.
So what you're saying is the guy holding the guitar in the pictures of the co-op, it's probably better to just let him play the guitar?
Yeah, maybe that's Galen West, and maybe he's only a figurehead or something like that.
Rather than getting him to chop up some vegetables, because otherwise he might decide to tear the whole system down.
So that's his overall view of Winston Churchill, but like, I don't believe in making overall views of things unless you actually look at the detail. And the details are stunning, because he keeps on saying Winston had a really stupid idea, and he really hung on to it. He always was portrayed as being something like a bulldog, so you can imagine, like, well, more like a pit bull, really, and even though he looked maybe more like a bulldog. And Winston just had stupid ideas, stupid. And what this guy says is Winston actually would come around eventually. But and then he points out that wasn't the way Stalin was, that wasn't the way Hitler was. Yeah. So that's the thing. Winston kind of semi-believed in something like democracy. So the big trouble with democracy is you have a hard time with aggressive propagandists. Okay? You have a hard time with them. That's what politicians, people say, aren't politicians awful? And they're talking about the democratic system. I say, it's like Winston Churchill talking about democracy. Oh, it's an awful system. Unfortunately, we're saying, yes, it's an awful system. But unfortunately, it's the best we've got. And it might be the best we could ever hope for. I don't know. I'd like to think not. I'd like to think that we could come up with better democratic systems. For example, the English Chartists, roughly 1840, 1830s maybe, every one of their planks has been adopted, basically vote for women, secret ballot, vote for everyone, every adult at least, and a few other things. One that has the powers that be never want to let in is yearly votes. So the powers are out there saying, man, isn't minority government awful because you're having too many elections? You can never have too many elections. You got to keep them honest, and the only way you keep these sphincters, maybe even other sphincters, honest, is by making them go back to the polls. An example is particularly the Conservative Party here in Canada, Republican Party in the United States. They're all for that electorate when they're running. Just like Donald Trump. He's all for the working guy. And particularly the Republicans, in their first, they're in for 4 years, unless they manage to cheat. The next...
I don't know about Trump. I mean, Bernie Sanders, he rolls up his sleeves and looks like he's ready to get to work.
Oh, Trump gets out there in the shirt sleeves too.
He wears a suit.
I'm not so sure.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, maybe sometimes he wears a suit. I don't know. Did he wear the suit when he was doing Apprenticeship? Like I've hardly seen any of his speeches and stuff like that. I just got the impression he was.
I think he's always wearing the red power tie.
And maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I think that's just where he spilled the ketchup on his white tie, when he was scoffing down the food, like shoveling it down his throat. Anyway, what was I going to say? Yeah, so Winston just was a nut bar. It's important if people are manic depressive or bipolar or even hypomanic for them to get medication. I'm not necessarily saying help, but they're they've got to get some medication to keep their impulses under control. And I think, I don't know if Hitler had that. Stalin, I think, kept himself under control. He was just a, some people call him would it be a psychopath, some sociopath. I think he was both. As I think psychopaths, like the mass murders. Well, he was a mass murderer, and sociopath, like he was amazingly good at manipulating social situations and stuff like that, and maintained himself in power for 29 years. So created the most let's say he refined the most totalitarian system, as far as I can see, that's ever been developed. Mao came up with his own refinements too, but way more totalitarian than the authoritarian Nazis, and the Nazis were awful. They were particularly problematic when it came to confining their problems within their own borders. Stalin kind of had this idea of revolution in one country, so a lot of his atrocities were actually committed within their own borders. Of course, surreptitiously, he and his followers, all the way up to even Gorbachev, did amazing damage to the world, especially third world countries, so-called third world countries, by supporting so-called insurgencies, really communist invasions done surreptitiously. Really not that surreptitiously. Once they got into a village, what they do is get hold of the village head and put a gun to his head. And they were called grudge sessions in China when the communists took over there. And they said, any complaints about this village head? It wasn't a trial. So, there was no appeal or anything like that. Too many complaints, and the guy just got shot. Now, when they went into Vietnam, they did, things like cutting off various appendages. I'm not going to go into the details, but I can recall reading about that when I was a kid, in Calgary, 64 to 67. And of course, there are all sorts of apologists for. I'm not interested in apologists for communism. I'm only interested in apologetics. I'm only interested in apologies. Okay, like that. So saying, oh, these sorts of things never happen. Well, they happen in China. It's well understood, I think, that they had these grudge sessions. So in Vietnam, they kind of made it a little more gruesome and so on and so forth. But that's the way dictatorships work. The ancient Assyrians worked that way. They're amazing. Anyway, back to what I didn't advertise, because I wanted to make sure that you were really interested in books. So I laid that math thing on you. Probably not going to have that visited on you, but I wanted to make sure that you were really interested in learning and books and stuff like that. We're going to go with this. So I have been rearranging a lot of my articles and stuff like that. I wish there'd be some of my own, but I ran across some stuff that I was getting hold of around the time COVID was hitting, and I haven't had a chance to go through it properly. I've mentioned this woman before, Dallas Abbott. She has nothing to do with me or anything like that, but she's done some incredible research. I hope she's still alive. She's roughly my age, so she could be dead. Maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger, but around my age. And I hope she hasn't retired. But she's found, and of course in Wiki, they were saying, some of her supporters were saying, she's mentioned on Wiki, but it's the only sources in Wiki are her critics. They don't give her any, and this was up till about 2020. They don't give her any room to argue or any room for evidence. But she's found huge impact craters at the bottom of seas and oceans around the world. Right? It's not just one place, so on and so forth. And then found huge, what they call chevrons on the shorelines, on the shorelines of, except for Antarctica, every continent. I mean, they might have a little trouble finding in Antarctica. The coastlines are basically covered by ice. There are a few exceptions in Antarctica. But yeah, so the one that's amazing is Burckle, the Burckle crater, and then kind of like the middle of the Indian Ocean. How wide is it? 29 kilometers. It's not as big as the biggest ones on the moon, but 29 kilometers crater impact is about 20 miles. So it's about from here to Stirling. So you've driven past Stirling. You try to think of a crater that big. That's at the bottom of the Indian Ocean. And it, you know, whenever I've mentioned it, I've mentioned that thing raised, I was saying, I always try to be careful. Waves in the southern shore of Madagascar, 100 feet high, but it's actually 100 meters. I don't know if you recall me mentioning it, because you see, sometimes my memory will glitch a little bit, and I do not want to say 100 meters if it's only 100 feet, but it's 100 meters to 200 meters, okay? So, one specific one is 170 meters, okay? So that's over 500 feet high. How high is that? That's a 50-story building. Now you think about that's not just like a little whisk of mist like what we saw up in Roe Lake. That's a whole huge hunk of water coming at you. That's Madagascar. But you know, they found these chevrons like on the coast of India. And now they misdate it. Now they're going with 2800 BC based on the work of an archaeologist. I respect the guy, but you know, originally the carbon-14 readings they were getting calibrated were 2300 BC. I don't know why they add 500 to it. Everyone makes mistakes, you know, when they're coming up with something new, right? So the original carbon-14 readings, that's not raw, that's calibrated, 2350 BC. And they're going, okay, it's 2800. I think they're trying, unfortunately, this mask guy's an archaeologist. He's not a historian. This is in historic times. Right? And you take the calibration off, the raw readings are 1850 BC. What does the Mesopotamian record say? 1850 BC. Right? 1850 BC. And looking at calendrical data, it'd be, okay, I'm off by 16 years, folks, 1866 BC. But anyway, one of the things, now this guy claimed that he discovered, I was saying U-bar when I reviewed this preliminary fashion maybe weeks ago, but it should be U-bar. I was thinking of it, I think, kind of unconsciously as being like a brand, U-bar, you know. You can see that, right? You with a bar under it or something like that. Anyway, it's U-bar, and sometimes it's called Wabar. Yeah. Oh, 5 minutes?
6.
6 minutes, okay. Anyway, Dallas Abbott, I just noticed this like a few minutes ago, really. She's found a you know, U-bar is a destroyed site in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. It's not in Arabia, strictly speaking. As I recall, it's in Oman. Just, yeah, Oman. So that's in the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, quite near the coast. And this guy was thinking that this was, U-bar is a place mentioned by, well, he calls it, yeah, U-bar. That it's mentioned, not by that name, in the Quran, as being a city that was destroyed by, the Quran puts it, by Allah for its rejection of a prophet or prophets and stuff like that. And so it's kind of amazing, you know, the site that they found. I'm saying it's not U-bar or U-bar. Where is it? So there.
That's nice.
It's weird. Yeah, but what caused that? This big hole in the ground.
Looks sort of like a sinkhole.
Well, I think that's actually what it is. But I think it's limestone territory, so you read
Why
it
is
well.
guy standing there naked?
He's just showing off how thin he is after surviving. He almost killed himself a couple of times in the Arctic. There's someone who's actually comfortable in the Arctic. There's a polar bear
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There were some better pictures of U-bar, but some of the snakes that hang around it, and stuff like that. Anyway, this guy did some fighting, actually for the good side. He was fighting the commies on the border of Yemen. The commies used to control Yemen. So it's, I'll show you where it's located. Maybe so the place that he identifies as Ubar is, I believe this Shisir here. That's in Oman, on the edge of Yemen, kind of on the edge of Saudi Arabia, and stuff like that. So yeah, the sinkhole here doesn't look that impressive, but there's kind of like a city at the bottom there. They've excavated it, or a town, or something like that. And oh yeah, here. Some good pictures in here. I wouldn't spend a lot of money for this to decorate your coffee table, but it should be at a, so here it is. It's kind of sunk down. This is the modern name, Shisir. And yeah, there it is. You can see they've excavated some stuff down there. But Pauline's right, it's a sinkhole. There it is. But
I just said it looks like.
Anyway, the Dallas Abbott has discovered something. I noticed it. I was looking at a list of the things. It was about the third most recent of the things that she listed in one of these articles. Wabar. See, I would have noticed Ubar, but here I noticed that sometimes it's spelled Wabar. And it can't be the thing, at least the disaster that they found there, can't be the thing that was mentioned in the Quran, which dates to roughly, well, between 610 AD to 6, I think it's 32 AD or something like that. Because they claim, Dallas Abbott and her team, that something hit there 300 years ago. Well, that's way too recent. Should more like 1600 years ago. Anyway, interesting reading. More for the Ubar stuff. His adventures, you know, trying to go to the North Pole on assist and stuff like that. I find that kind of stuff relatively boring. You know, like it's just people trying to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. The first part's interesting when he's fighting the commies and stuff like that. And, kind of like the sands on the border of the empty quarter. There's actually a place in Saudi Arabia that's called the Rub al-Khali, I think, and I think that means the empty quarter. Rub would mean quarter, or something like that. Anyway, I think that's basically it for now, but folks, you hang in there. There's lots of material to be dealt with. How much time? Half a minute?
A minute.
A minute. So I'll just review some of the stuff for you. Sorry for getting me
go
up
ahead.
there. But I've threatened you with this. Dorothy L. Sayer was probably someone who is a sawyer, like someone who's a carpenter. At any rate, Clouds of Witness, and Hangman's Holiday. A little bit of alliteration there for you. This thing I've been reading because we've been doing a lot of hiking. The worst case scenario.
Oh, I remember the last time you went through that.
I reviewed it?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just didn't record it. So you'll get it reviewed again. That's the way it goes. So tune in.